we discovered several thoughts that ran counter to the teaching in the pillar. With the support of the Major General Silverman, when asked to present our learnings in this session, I spoke with these counterpoints and asked all of our fellows to consider my point of view. It is much more important in leadership to constantly analyze and form your own opinions about the world around you, which is why I found sessions with Major General Silverman absolutely amazing. Thank you, sir, for your support and encouragement. I have taken your philosophy to heart, and I will carry it with me into my journey with leadership, wherever that may take me. Please come up to the stage and accept a small token of our appreciation.
Good evening to all here with us today. My name is Isabella Soriano, and I'm a junior at Suncoast High School, and I would like to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude for the amazing opportunity I had to work with my mentor, Mr. Ronnie Simpson, throughout my time at the Solomon Leadership Program. As Oprah Winfrey once said, a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. Mr. Simpson ensured both my fellow and I to have had hope inside ourselves, whether it be becoming a better version of ourselves or simply achieving a future goal. He helped me see that these 8 pillars have deeper meaning besides contributing to leadership. During each session, Mr. Simpson always worked to apply the pillars in our current everyday lives. He would allow us fellows to identify a current issue, whether it had been school, relationships, or our future goals that were current in our lives, and how this may be fixed by using what we had learned from someone. This application allowed me to widen my views on how the 8 pillars don't solely serve to make a great leader, but to make a well-rounded individual overall. Mr. Simpson always reminded me to view things from a plethora of perspectives in order to identify the source and what I could do in order to change it. I have genuinely appreciated all of the influential moments Mr. Ronnie Simpson has provided me during my time here, and this has been a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'm so glad I have the opportunity to be mentored by such a wise and intelligent individual. Please come up to the stage to accept this small token of our
Good evening. My name is Zaria Liss, and it is my great honor to speak about my mentor, Honorable Judge Lisa Small. In life, we may encounter rare circumstances where we discover something new about ourselves. It takes a special leader to recognize these qualities within us. I had such an experience when I met Judge Small. As Lao Tzu once said, "To lead, walk behind them." Judge Small embodied this philosophy by empowering me to believe in myself, trust my judgment, and analyze topics from my own perspective. Her guidance gave me confidence and strength. I recall our initial lesson where we talked about the first pillar of character. Judge Small emphasized the importance of kindness and active listening, urging us to consider everyone's opinions and thoughts before making our judgments. In fact, listening is just as crucial as sharing one's own ideas. Leadership is not limited to a select few, but rather it is a quality that resides within each and every one of us. The journey towards leadership begins in a single step in the right direction. Once we find our path, we can feel empowered to create a positive impact for the world, not just for ourselves, but for generations as well. Unfortunately, Honorable Judge Small is not able to be here with us tonight, but I am grateful for her exceptional mentorship throughout the Solomon Leadership Program and for the positive impact she had made on my life and the positive impact she makes in this world. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Haley Lazar, and I'm a senior from Park Vista High School. In exactly 2 weeks, I will be graduating, and my high school career will come to an end. Whereas this can seem sentimental, and it is, another door is opening simultaneously as the first closes. Then the information I have learned my entire life will be put to the test, and I will have to apply it as needed. Although the Solomon Leadership Program was only a short 6 months, the value of that information is comparable to that of school. Therefore, those skills will also be put to the test. What we've gained from the speakers and mentors was not information and facts that can be resolved with a quick Google search, but rather skills and shared experiences that helped begin to sculpt all of us into that of a leader. My mentor, Mr. Paul Kozlov, is a businessman. He has worked extensively throughout his life to reach the place that he's in today and shared hidden shortcuts to his mentees by explaining different ways that a business can run smoothly. I have learned how each person has their own critical role, and a leader is needed to guide those that may need help to return to their place within the well-oiled machine of a business. So, thank you. I have learned that as a leader, you must have different characteristics that bode well together to create a person that is a role model for others. A leader is not someone that only has a vision or a strategy. A leader can not only be a powerful communicator or a persisting soul. Each of these pillars that we have learned must be applied to create that of an outstanding, well-rounded leader that we have all become. Throughout school, there were labels of what a person excelled in. I was a math person. My best friend was a history person. Why can't a person just be an everything person? Although I was always the math person, for a couple days, I decided to bring out the part of me that might have been labeled as an art person. I decided to convey my feelings of leadership through a painting. In my painting, I tried to convey a message. Sometimes there seems to be a large obstacle on our path. Sometimes that figurative mountain seems impossible to defeat. We may wait and stay at the bottom, planning and waiting for that right time to finally conquer our goals. But a leader takes that first step, not only for themselves, but for others, so the future can follow in their footsteps. Besides that leader taking the first step, there is an additional larger force waiting to handle that leader's next task once they've completed the first. A leader never stops, always knowing that there is something out there that can make them an even better leader. This painting represents the overall first step a leader must take, which shows their character and courage to take the initiative. While some may be content waiting and basking in the limelight of what may be out there, a leader begins that looming journey. This is the type of leader I aspire to become. Not only a leader in the workplace, but a leader in my life. Not scared of what we might be scared of. Perhaps now that I have been a math person and I have dipped in the art person, now I can just be me.
Hi again. Good evening. By this time at graduation, we've clapped for all the graduates and we've taken time to honor the great moments we've had in learning through this program. But I'd like to argue quite the opposite. The greatest, most impactful moments I look back on through this program are quintessentially the most awkward. The clicking of pens and waiting to see who would ask the guest speaker the first question, the scanning of the crowd to see who would get up first to speak at the end of every session, and the stuttering and looking for words to answer the questions that our mentors ask that make you rethink your whole short years of life. It is none other than these moments that define leadership. There is no greater opportunity for someone to step forward, to be the first to step forward, or even the best to step forward, but to prove themselves in a time of awkwardness. So I'd like to thank every mentor and every fellow for all the super awkward moments that have pushed me to be the leader I am today.
said this in my essay, my project, and my table for the past Tuesdays for a long time, but bravery is a whole other matter when it comes to leadership. You may spend your entire life leading a team towards a vision you see so clearly, persisting in a mission you need to accomplish, or strategizing the next step to make that happen, but you'll never stride there faster or farther than anyone else if you don't jump. And even if you fall, that's one less mistake to make later. I never realized how much success relied on the chance of landing correctly. Success. Why do we only define good leaderships as the ones that are so successful? As teenagers, we tend to lose perspective of how much of our potential we've already achieved by looking too closely at the success we chase. The New Oxford American Dictionary has two definitions for the noun success. First, the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose, or the second definition, the good or bad outcome of an undertaking. We've listened intently to all our brilliant guest speakers, but without fail, each question we ask always comes back to, what are your steps to success? When was the moment you became successful? What advice do you have for an aspiring person to be successful? But when we look at ourselves in terms of the second definition, we fellows are clearly defined examples of success. Out of the thousands of teens that live in Palm Beach County and have access to this opportunity, we were the ones that undertook this course with hard work and created a result. There is no way to speed up the process of life and absorb all the failures and all the triumphs that come with it. But we can, and we did provide ourselves with a jumpstart that shaped us into the leaders of tomorrow. However, success was never the point of this course. The 8 pillars we've read again, discussed again, were never about success. Solomon's entire focus is strengthening the traits of leaders that we already possess. Fellows, look around at the people you've grown with. Not a single one of us has the same set of leadership traits that we've all worked to cultivate, and that's a good thing. The world doesn't need successful leaders. The world needs honest leaders. The world needs intelligent leaders. The world needs caring leaders. Be a leader in the strongest way that you know how, and success will be your follower. Success has followed each and every one of us to the ends of the Solomon Leadership Program, and I have no doubt it will be chasing each and every one of you for the rest of your lives. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At each session, an esteemed guest speaker opened the program. They each spoke specifically about their experience with one of the 8 pillars of leadership and their most important messages related to all the skills we have learned. Tonight, I'm excited to share Nancy Brinker, the founder of the Susan G. Komen Foundation for the Tolerance Pillar. State Attorney in Palm Beach County, Mr. Dave Ehrenberg for the Communication Pillar. Mrs. Terry Cassell, the Head of Strategic Human Resources at the Elliott Investment Management and noted philanthropist for the Vision Pillar. Businessman and Solomon Board Member, Mr. Stephen Canton for the Empowerment Pillar. Mr. Paul Leone, President of the Breakers Hotel for Persistence. Congressman Brian Mass, the representative for Florida's 21st Congressional District for the Strategy Pillar. And finally, Dr. Moshe Perez, reproductive endocrinologist for the Judgment Pillar. We have learned so many incredible and practical messages about what leadership means, how to be a leader, and how each pillar played an important role in each speaker's life and trajectory. A few lessons were, life should not be based on precedent, so don't be afraid to chart your own path. This statement was made by State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg. This was very impactful as it's important to realize that what you accomplish while charting your own path may not have been accomplished otherwise if you've been following the path of someone else's. For example, if you're following the path that someone else has already made, it becomes harder for you to take risks and fail spectacularly. By charting your own path, you are curating a life that is for you only. Mr. Ehrenberg also stated that there is so much that you can continually learn. Oftentimes, we may be closed to taking advice or criticism in areas we feel that we are proficient in. However, opening yourself to education in its various forms at any age may prove to be extremely beneficial. As well as from Mr. Paul Leone, who stated that persistence is much more important than talent. I found this to be especially impactful because while someone who may have the natural knack for something may achieve what they set out to do on their first try, your determination may prove to be more beneficial in the end. Mr. Leone also stated that the key predictor of success is drive. Drive is an essential component to one's success. It is the difference between giving up when things get tough and persevering through obstacles and setbacks to reach your goals. Drive is also the willingness to learn and grow from one's mistakes and use them to succeed. I wish I had much more time to talk about all of the amazing ideas we heard from all of the guest speakers. We are extremely grateful to each and every one for all of the impactful wisdom they have imparted to us. Thank you.
Good evening. Hearing from such accomplished leaders at each session was truly a privilege. As our tolerance speaker, Miss Nancy Brinker said, do not quit, because the worst thing you can do is quit. Today, I have a different mindset towards the bumps in the road that I face. For example, it's safe to say that I don't have an aptitude towards math. I've struggled with it my entire life, and I wish I could say that with enough practice over the years, it's gotten easier for me. But I'd be lying to your face. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, at least nobody's forcing her to pursue a math rigorous career. And you're right, but I'm gonna do so anyways. I think the main thing that was holding me back was not others, but myself. And as sad as it is, I never thought I was good enough. In fact, I was gonna take the easy way out and major in photography. However, a few years ago, I had an epiphany. Marine biology was what I was put on this earth to do. This, however, had never really crossed my mind because of how much math was involved. But I realized that the drive I have to save our ocean is way too powerful to give up on. I realize now that if I had given up, I never would have had a shot in the first place. And I thank God that my parents didn't raise a quitter. Tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Tom Iovino, who will share parting thoughts with us about what it means to be a Solomon leader. Thomas Iovino has over 40 years of experience as a visionary leader in the construction and infrastructure industry. He currently serves as chairman and founder of Iovino Enterprises, a family of companies providing major civil and specialty construction services in 6 states. Mr. Iovino is a member of the World Presidents Organization, the Chief Executives Organization, Construction Industry Roundtable, and the Moles. He is a trustee on the board of directors of the Norton Museum. Mr. Iovino founded the IF Foundation, which empowers families in Haiti to create their own pathway out of poverty. He also serves on the Solomon Board of Directors. Without further ado, Mr. Tom Iovino.
Well, I must tell you, I don't even know where to start because everybody was incredibly impressive. My God, you are all true leaders, and I'm incredibly impressed. I gotta take my coat because I'm sweating. I decided to talk and tell you about my career a little bit and then try to weave in the pillars of the Solomon Leadership Program. But before I do that, one is all of you fellows I am incredibly impressed with. And I also noticed that there's like 13 of the 17 I think are women, which I think is a really good thing too. But you know, I'll turn 71 in June, and I still think I'm a kid like you guys are. But the time goes quickly, and I think about like when I was your age and what happened to me. You know, so I remember that for me it was a 5th grade teacher who he was my elementary school teacher, and he spent from 9 to 12 teaching us math, and then from 1 to 3 every other subject. So I fell in love with math. And when I went to college, I thought I'd be a math teacher, and I met my wife I don't know, I guess I met her once my freshman year, and then I started dating her my sophomore year. And her father went to the same school I did. And I asked her, I said, well, listen, tell him to get me a summer job, you know? So he got me a summer job working for a contracting company. Now, if there's anyone who should not be in the contracting business, it's me. And I can tell you a multitude of stories about, like, my wife won't even let me change light bulbs in the house because I've actually broken them in the socket. I've plain doors to where they're like wavy ends like that. So, but I ended up working for this company, and it was a time when, it was in 1970, and you guys don't know, but I was number 8 in the draft for Vietnam, and it was a pretty crazy time. And I have a picture, I had hair down to here, and I was a hippie, you know, we were hippies at the time. And we marched on Washington, and we did all that sort of stuff. So when I went to go work for this contracting company, they wanted no part of me, you know what I mean? Because they just didn't like hippies or college students like myself. Anyway, I fell in love more with the people and the type of people who did the construction. They were hard-working individuals with strong values. And I would argue that character is the most important pillar that you have here, because character is what you earn and what you keep with you for the rest of your life. And if you make a mistake with it, okay, it can be really detrimental. It's something that you have to live with every single day, and they have to work on every day to improve. And so I worked for them that summer, and I was like, I'm the oldest in my family, and I just wanted to work all the time. So they let me work Christmas break and winter break and spring break and all this other stuff. And when I finally graduated with a master's degree in engineering, I was going to go work for a firm in Manhattan because I wanted to work in Manhattan. And they said to me, what are they paying you? And I said, $14,000 a year. And I was very proud of that because all my friends were getting 12. So they said, well, why don't you come work for us? We'll give you $14,400. So for $400, I went to go work for that company. And I worked for them for 3 years until I felt there was so much family that I wouldn't get a chance to like elevate myself. And I went to go work for a guy in New York. His name was Andy Capasso. And I learned more about construction and water mains and sewers, and that's predominantly what we did. But I always had a hunger to start my own business, but couldn't figure out how to do it without any money. So what I did was I started working on weekends, and you know, you do a small job for $5,000, you hire a couple of guys, whatever, and I, you know, supplemented my salary. Well, the number 2 guy in the company was very jealous of my relationship with the owner, and he said, this guy's going to destroy the entire culture of the company. We need to fire him. So they fired me, and I was, I guess, 30 at the time. It was March of '83. So I thought I'd get a job. We had 2 babies. We had 0 money in the savings account. We didn't have a savings account. There was no such thing, and I had no money. And my wife said to me, basically, listen, you're going to start your own company. I don't care if we lose the house. I don't care if we lose everything, all right? Because you need to get it out of your system. Because if you don't do that, you'll always wish you woulda, coulda, shoulda, or something like that, right? So, of course, I yelled at her and told her she doesn't know what she's talking about, yada, yada, yada. But I decided that I would work weekends, and I went to the water department. I asked them who's taking out permits to move water mains or hydrants or something like that. And I worked 10 weekends, only weekends. I didn't work during the week, from March until September. I did $170,000 worth of work. I made $110,000 in profit, and I started 4 people working for me. And then I had to, all I did was work on getting paid, because the banks wouldn't lend you any money because you don't have any money, right? And I couldn't get bonding, so that means I had to work as a subcontractor. So you spend 90% of your time like just chasing money and trying to make sure that the person that you're working for is paying you. And you think that that's like an easy thing, but if they asked me, like, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing really well, they didn't pay me. So I learned that I had to tell them I was going bankrupt, and then they would pay me. So it evolved. Well, anyway, 15 years later, I built it up to $65 million a year. I'm working 6 days a week, yada, yada, yada. I go to a Harvard executive education program. And I go there, and in my peer group, and by the way, I would just tell you that the one thing that you should take away from this today is you have a peer group now of fellows, okay? Stay in touch with each other. You can take this with you for the rest of your life. This is a very, very special program. You've learned some tremendous things, and you can share them with other people. Plus, you can also share difficulties that you've had. So, what ended up happening at Harvard was that there's 8 guys in the study group, and there's 3 types of presidents. One is an entrepreneur like myself, one is a guy who went to Harvard and got his MBA, and one is my great-grandfather started the business, and the 3rd generation, right? So when I told everybody my story about me working, doing all that sort of stuff, they said, you're gonna burn yourself out. You need to delegate responsibility. You're gonna worship God. And I remember hearing them tell me that, and I go, I already am burning myself out. So I called my CFO at the time, and I said to him, I said, listen, I'm doing everything wrong. We need to change everything. So we went on a retreat. What do we do right? What do we do wrong? We came up with these operating performance objectives, and over time, we changed the company. And what actually happened was I used to work 6 days a week, and now I bought a company, I started 3 other companies, I had a lot of free time, and built the business up. And over time with Harvard, you learn something every year you went there. I got an executive coach, and then I got an advisory board. Excuse me. And the advisory board basically told me you need to sell half the company because you need to take chips off the table, yada, yada, yada. So ended up doing that, and then sold the rest of it of that company in 2016, and I had a non-compete, non-poach, but they didn't want to pay me for that, so because I was 65 at the time, they said you wouldn't start another company. And I really didn't think I would, because I had these 3 other companies that I thought would keep me busy. But I did start a new company, January 1st, 2018, and believe it or not, it's bigger than the company that I sold already, and they're already doing $300 million worth of work a year. So anything is possible. So there's things that there's things I want to touch on, all right? So about character being the most important thing, it's because it's your reputation. It's something that's earned and it's something that's lived. And it can be easily lost, and you've got to be very careful with that. It needs to be respected and cherished and practiced and not squandered, okay? And communication, somebody said before about seek first to understand before being understood. And that's a 7 Covey habit, and I don't know if you guys are aware of those, but if you're not, you should just look them up because they're pretty good. In fact, if you want, I'll read them to you. But I can just tell you that communication is more important than the messaging. So I'll give you an example of something that happened to me when I first started my company. I was always worried about let's say you expected me to pay you Friday, and I couldn't pay you Friday. So I would make sure I called you a week or 2 before, and I would say to you, listen, I know you're expecting the check on Friday, but I can't pay you, but I can definitely pay you the following Friday, right? Now, people respected that, right? Now, same situation, the person calls up for the check, nobody gets a call, they never get a call, they never get a call back, they keep calling because they never get the check, and then they still get the check that following Friday, right? Well, in one situation, it's a positive experience, and in the other situation, it's a negative experience. So I would just say that communicating the message is just as important, if not more important, than the message itself. When you talk about empowerment, I think of in my company, I like to be the dumbest guy in my company because I love empowering all my people to be able to do whatever they want to do. And if they're not making mistakes, they can't work for me, right? Because if they're not making mistakes, they're not trying hard enough. And I'm continually looking to raise the bar, as all of you are looking to raise the bar every day of your life, in school or in work or in your life and everything. And don't ever think that anything's not possible. I can tell you that my experience has been that don't let anybody ever tell you can't get something done. Because if you believe it and you've got the persistence, I am telling you, it can definitely happen. So I'm going to give you a couple of persistence things. So it's 1986, I'm only in business maybe 3 years, and I'm doing this foundation 60 feet deep on the corner of 86th Street and 3rd Avenue. And I was working with these guys that said that they knew what they were doing, but they didn't know what they were doing, unfortunately. And when I found that it was too late, and at that time I really didn't have much money, maybe I had $1 million, but it was like a $1.5 million job, but I was going to lose over $1.5 million. Now I had a lot of backlog, and I felt that over time I'd be able to recover, but the banks wouldn't give me any money, and I didn't know what to do, and it was like, you're going to go bankrupt, and that's all that's going to happen. So either I accepted going bankrupt, or I came up with a solution. And what I did was I went to my pipe supplier, I went to my concrete supplier, I went to my equipment supplier, and I showed them on a large piece of paper that I needed them to give me concrete for 16 months, and I wasn't going to pay them, but 16 months later I paid them. I told the equipment guy the same thing, all right? And I told the pipe supplier the same thing. And this is another situation where you under-promise and over-deliver, right? So it didn't take me 6 months, it took me 14 months. But they became my $1.5 million bank line. Now, I am telling you, if I didn't come up with that idea, I had to work to become successful, but I would have failed, right? So you have to believe that you can get something done. So when I did the Second Avenue subway in New York, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but I did 2 of the 4 stations, and I don't know if any of you heard of Governor Cuomo, but he was a pretty difficult governor, but he demanded a lot. And he wanted the 72nd Street station done by the end of the year, and he insisted that I be there 7 days a week, and we were working 2 10-hour shifts. So I went there every shift, okay, to make sure I met with all the people that work for me. Now, did I do something great? Was I the smartest guy in the room? Was I anything like that? No, I wasn't. But you know what I did? I showed support for all the people, and I always asked them, what do you need from me? Tell me what you need from me, okay? Because when somebody says that you can't get something done, and they come up with great excuses, A, B, C, D, and E, and all of them get an A. There's a great reason why you can't get it done, all right? But I don't want those people working for me, all right? I want people to tell me that we can't get it done unless this happens, this happens, this happens, and this happens. And that's my job, is to make those things happen so that you can achieve that kind of success. And when you do the impossible, when you conquer something that everybody says, you're never going to make it. And the governor would, he'd come in the middle of the night and look for me, and if I wasn't there, he'd call me at home. He was just like maniacal. But I remember the head of the transit authority. We were opening up, and they were going to do the opening ceremony on December 31st, New Year's Eve. They were doing it at 72nd Street, and it was probably maybe 3.5 weeks before we were going to open. And I remember the head of the transit authority walking with me, and she pulled me back behind the governor, and she says, Tom, if you're not going to get it done, okay, you got to tell me now, because this is going to be really embarrassing. And I remember telling her, her name was Ronnie Heyman, and I said, Ronnie, I'm telling you, I got it done here, and my people have got it done. You have nothing to worry about. I remember going down to the station on New Year's Eve, and she was waiting for me, all right, to give me a hug and a kiss, to say, I didn't think it could get done, but it got done. So you need to believe in yourselves. You need to know that you can accomplish anything. It's all out there for you. And whatever you do, don't go to mediocrity. Just keep raising the bar all the time. Make mistakes, be challenged. Don't let anybody ever tell you can't do something, okay? The other thing is to make sure that you treat everybody with dignity and respect. You know, I was at a tech seminar, and there was a woman who was on a space station for 6 months. And on a space station, there were people from all different countries, you know what I mean? But they're on a space station, so they really have to work together. It's like, if you hate Russians or something like that, well, if there's Russians on the space station, you got to kind of work with them, right? Anyway, the takeaway I got from her speech was that we're all human beings, okay? And that's what we have to start thinking about ourselves. We're not Americans, we're not Russians, we're not black, we're not white, we're not this sex or that sex, but we're all human beings. And if we're gonna make this world a better place, we gotta start treating everybody with equality and dignity. So I think that's very important. So the only other thing, first of all, I just want to tell you that the mentors give up a lot of time to do this. I can't do it because I actually live and work in New York City, but the fact that you can have the quality of the mentors that you have work with you is a really special, and I would commend all of them for that. And I'd just like to tell you, they mentioned what I did in Haiti, and I would just tell you that in volunteering and giving of yourself, people say the more you give, the more you get back. Well, to me, I would tell you that that's certainly true, and I'll give you a story. So I'm a Italian Catholic, and we have Lent, and so it means you give something up, for 40 days, right? So I was a Scotch drinker, so what I did in 1985 was give up Scotch for Lent. And I hated vodka, but by the end of Lent, I loved vodka. So the following year, 1986, it was a Thursday after Ash Wednesday, and I'm out to dinner with these people, and they said, "You're gonna have a vodka." I says, "No, I'm giving up vodka for lunch." And the woman said, "That's ridiculous," and blah, blah, blah. And this is 1986, so this is when I'm working 6 days a week and all that sort of stuff. And bottom line was, after like a bunch of verbal abuse, she said she'd become a candy striper at a hospital, right? So I called up my assistant at the time, and I said, "Listen, call up Huntington Hospital and tell them that I'll volunteer 4 days for the 40 days a month." So first of all, you have to join the auxiliary. You have to actually pay money to volunteer, all right? Then you have to go to orientation. Well, by the time orientation was done, it was like Palm Sunday already, you know? So anyway, they call me up and they tell me, "We've got a job for you. And you're gonna work with," now remember, this is 1986, I'm 34 years old. And they told me, "You're gonna work with these two guys. One guy is 65, his name is Jack Leach, and the other guy is Arthur Piani, and he's 70. And you're gonna give out newspapers and magazines in the hospital." And I said to her, "Listen," I said, "I give you 4 days. Well, why don't you just try it and see if you like it, right?" So after 5 years, Jack Leach unfortunately died, and we did newspapers and magazines with Arthur Piani for 10 years. And then they disbanded newspapers and magazines because what happened was the women would get there late, you know, people would take them and stuff like that, so they came up with newspaper machines, so they eliminated our jobs, right? So what happened was we went to another place to volunteer, and we didn't realize it was connected to Huntington Hospital, so when we went over there, Huntington Hospital called us up and said, "Listen, why don't you guys come back, you know?" So we ended up coming back and we became nursing assistants. So as a nursing assistant, what you do is you give them ice water, you know what I mean, and you give them the socks with the rubber on the bottom and hand creams, and you empty bedpans. And you might think that emptying a bedpan is a horrible thing, but it humbles you. And I'll tell you that the fact that I did this volunteer work for 20 years with this guy, it was like God came into my life. He talked about his family. I knew everything about his family. He knew everything about my family. So because you have to understand, in 20 years, he's watched the company go from here to here. I watched him lose one of his grandchildren. He watched my children grow up. But we didn't see, our families didn't see each other. And unfortunately, he ended up moving to Oregon to an assisted living facility. But when I went to go see him, and unfortunately got pancreatic cancer right after that and passed away. But it was such a blessing to volunteer. It humbled me. And I'm telling you, humility is a big part of leadership. You have to have humility. And then when I got into working in Haiti, it was, you know, I had this, I was giving a lot of money away, and I thought maybe I should manage giving the money away myself. So I hired a priest that was retiring. I made him become my managing director. And we were drilling wells around the world. But it would take him like, you know, a week to get to Bangladesh and another week to get back. And, you know, my son would go and they drill the well and all this sort of stuff. So we ended up going to Haiti to do a small little water project. And this was like 15 years ago, believe it or not. And anyway, we've been involved in Haiti now for the last 15 years. And what we do is we work with 500 farmers. I own tractors, I own everything. We do, you know, 15,000 breakfast meals a week. Which is a really good thing because it's probably the only thing that they get to eat. Now, the one thing that I'd like you to understand about Haiti is, you know, people talk about Port-au-Prince. Port-au-Prince is actually a normal place. I mean, you can go there, you can get a hotel room, there's bathrooms, there's running water, there's electricity. Where I am in the northeast part of Haiti, there is no electricity. There's no electricity. There is no running water. Okay? They didn't have toilet tissue until I introduced it into the schools. Everybody used leaves. Okay? And I'm telling you, when you go to a place like that, and then you come back here, this is like the United States is a country club with no, and they all had smiles on their faces. I just can't understand it, but it was actually wonderful. But I would just tell you that the more you give, the more you get, right? I told you about the peer group. I told you about making mistakes and how important that they are. And I just leave you with the spirit, the power of the human spirit, okay? You witnessed part of it, the program that you were in, right? And you feel it, right? It resonates. And I would tell you that when you feel the power of the human spirit, when people talk to me about God, right? Okay, I don't see heaven as a place like a Four Seasons resort someplace, but I feel that God is in all of us. And the Spirit of God is that human spirit that we talk about. And all of you need to tap into that, okay, to make this world a better place. You have a bright future, all of you, okay? And you have a responsibility, and you can't take that responsibility away. We need you to be great leaders, okay? Congratulations on your efforts, and I congratulate all of you on what you've done.
And I know that it has been quite an incredible journey. Throughout this program, we learned about the 8 pillars that are fundamental to leadership: character, tolerance, communication, vision, empowerment, persistence, strategy, and judgment. Each of these pillars plays a critical role in developing leadership skills that are not only relevant to the Jewish community, but also to the world at large. But as we celebrate our accomplishments, I want to leave you with a reminder from our former president, John F. Kennedy. One of his most famous sayings, of course, is ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. As leaders, it's important to remember that our ultimate goal is not personal gain or recognition, but rather to use our skills and abilities to serve others and make a positive impact in the world. Your actions, your words, and your behavior as leaders matter. Through the completion of the Solomon Leadership Program, you are now all equipped with the right tools to inspire and motivate others to achieve great things. This program taught us that true leadership requires self-reflection and self-awareness. It's about understanding your strengths and weaknesses and being willing to learn from both. It's about having the courage to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them. As you move forward, I urge all of you to continue to being lifelong learners. Keep striving to be the best version of yourselves and continue to inspire others to do the same. Remember that you are not alone in this journey. You have a community of mentors, peers, and supporters who are cheering you on every step of the way. I mean, just look around you. Finally, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who's made this program possible. To the mentors, staff, guest speakers, and volunteers who have dedicated countless hours to ensure the success of this program. Thank you. Of course, a big thank you specifically to Miss Sarah Dworkin for leading the program and ensuring that it always ran smoothly and flawlessly, and to Rabbi Shiner for hosting this incredible program at Palm Beach Synagogue. Your commitment to developing the next generation of leaders is truly inspiring. So, to the graduates, I want to say that I am truly excited to see what the future holds for each and every one of you. You are all capable of achieving great things, and I have no doubt that you will go on to make a significant impact in the world. So remember the words of President Kennedy and always ask yourself what you can do for others and for the world. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations.
Thank you. I'd like to invite everyone to join us as we celebrate, bring tables, and just enjoy and celebrate our